Welcome everyone. My name is Linda Ray and I'm the CEO of a company called NeuroCapability. We specialise in building psychological safety in workplaces, and I'm really interested in employee wellbeing and improving that. We also support leaders to develop their capability. I'm delighted to be joined by Dr Jenny Brockis, a colleague and friend of mine who is a medical practitioner, and she is a lifestyle medicine physician, and she specialises in brain health, in mental well-being and in human connection. So thanks for joining me, Jenny. I'm really delighted that you made the time to speak with me.
Linda, I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, and this conversation sprung from a conversation that you and I had, where I said to you, Jenny, I'm an expert at looking after my brain and my brain health, and yet I feel like I'm swimming through this fire. And I thought it was just me, and I was really concerned because I do have this big toolbox of things that I can do to, self-regulate and manage the uncertainty within which we're finding ourselves. And I was really relieved to hear that you too, who I see as a guru expert in this area, that you too were experiencing that fatigue. And I kind of invite anyone that's listening to this, to also ask yourself that question: what are my fatigue levels, and are you too swimming through this fog of fatigue? And I'm curious. We had some conversation about why we thought we might be feeling like that, and I'd really love to hear your thoughts on that, Jenny.
I think one of the things is that we're often trying too hard. No, we've been put in this new situation, which in itself is a challenge to adjust to. And sometimes it's along with managing our family. We might have children at home. All of a sudden, we've become teachers as well as parents in many instances. How does that work? And you might have a partner at home who also wants to share your space that you've designated for yourself to do your work, and they want to share that space too, and you're all on top of each other. So that's all causing sort of quite a degree of stress, which we're often subconsciously trying to sort of manage. And the temptation can be, well, I'm a superhero and I can do all this, and we push our way through, forgetting that actually this is a time where we need to go a little bit more gently with ourselves to avoid falling into a complete heap, feeling completely worn out and exhausted. And I think there's a new medical condition that's going to become increasingly apparent over the next couple of months. And I think it's called brain fry from being on too many Zoom calls. Because
Absolutely, back-to-back Zoom calls.
Back-to-back Zoom calls. Zoom's been such a wonderful way to connect with each other during this time of physical distancing. And again, I think the temptation has been it's a bit of an overkill, because we've sort of dived into it, and every day there seems to be another invitation to join yet another Zoom meeting. And if you're in that space where you're curious to learn new information, and you're thinking, well, how can I get better at what I'm doing and learn new stuff, then we tend to sign up for all these things and then get overwhelmed by the amount of time we're spending online in front of a screen, which is in itself exhausting. It's much more effort to pay attention and to take things in through a screen than it is when you're face to face. So that's been my experience anyway. I don't know what it's been like for you, Linda.
Yeah, I think quite a similar experience, and I can really relate to your idea of overwhelm. And one of the things that I think occurred to me is I keep predicting that the and I have a little bit today, which is lovely. But I keep thinking it'll lift. So I keep committing my future self to doing things, because I think that I'll have more energy in the future. And this is something that we talk about called future self-predicting. So we predict that we'll have more resources available to our future self than we do right now. So we inadvertently commit to things that we then later regret and think, why did I sign up for that? And I guess one of my tips and what I've been trying and works quite well is asking that question: do I have the energy and the resources to do that thing right now? And if the answer is no, don't commit your future self to something that you probably will live to regret. And I think if we can give some tips along the way in this discussion, I think that would be really helpful. And you spoke about the stress also contributing to fatigue. What are some of the things you think that we should be doing in this environment where, as you suggested, we're vying for space with other people, and might be on back-to-back Zoom calls and trying to teach children at home. I mean, this is a completely whole new world, and I think people maybe underestimate the level of stress that they might be experiencing.
Absolutely. I think this is the time to really be very mindful about how much time we allocate to any particular task, whether it's work-related or family-related, and to, like you say, ask yourself the question first: do I have the time and the energy and capacity to deal with this right now? And if not, have permission, to grant yourself permission as a human being to step back and say, no, I'm not, and that's okay, rather than pushing ourselves too hard all the time. I think the other thing is that self-care at this point in time is absolutely critical. And if you're a person who often struggles with that at the best of times, it's going to be even more of a challenge right now, because we've got other people all around us demanding other things of us. So the temptation is that we sort them all out first and then deal with ourselves. Whereas it's the proverbial put your own oxygen mask on first if you want to be at your best. So looking after those basic things of what we choose to eat, how much physical activity we include in our day, and to get enough sleep, because I think so many people I've been speaking to at the moment are saying that they're struggling with their sleep patterns. Normally they might sleep really well, and now they're finding it difficult to fall asleep or stay asleep. And other people who already have difficulty in that area are just finding that sleep has left the building and are really, really struggling. And that means they're then more tired in the day, and that means that your capacity to manage your day effectively is reduced. So I think if we deal with those three things initially, then we're setting ourselves up to manage ourselves better, and then to deal with the emotional side of things, which is where the positive psychology aspects come in. And we can use things such as mindfulness meditation if that's something that has worked for people in the past. It's a great time to tap into that type of technique. I know I've been using mindfulness meditation myself for years now. I used to always send my patients off to learn it when they were coming to see me as a doctor with symptoms of anxiety and depression. But it wasn't until I went to learn it that I suddenly realised just how effective it can be to calm the mind down, to reduce that stress, to allay that anxiety, and to induce that sense of calm. And it's, thank goodness. And once you've got that skill,
shown to improve your sleep hygiene as well, hasn't it?
Totally. Yeah. And what I think is so lovely about mindfulness is that you don't have to do it for hours on end. A lot of the research I've looked into indicates that nobody actually knows what's the minimum dose required, but even a few minutes every day has been shown to be of benefit. So, we've all got 5 minutes up our sleeve at the moment. So,
and it can be as simple as going for a mindful walk in the backyard, if you have a backyard, or looking out the window, or tuning all your senses to auditory channel, just to give that busy brain a little bit of a break.
That's right.
The other thing I've been indulging in is, because of this fatigue fog, is I just thought, look, I can't keep going. I'm going to go and have a nap, and a short nap, because I probably could sleep for hours, but that probably wouldn't do me a whole lot of good. But a short nap, and I found that just gives me that little extra boost of energy to get through the things I need to do in the afternoon. I hit that kind of 2 o'clock or 1:30 slump in the afternoon, and to me I can fight and push through with a really tired brain, but my productivity and the quality of my work is not going to be good. So I'm much better actually finding that half hour, if you can, to have a little bit of a nap.
Yes, and it's not something we necessarily do every day, but I think, like you say, it's like something to put in our emergency toolkit, so that on those days where your brain is completely it's okay saying, all right, well, this is what I'm going to do now. And the timing, of course, is so important. I mean, you've mentioned when you go and have your nap, and I think it's really important to remember that as long as we do it early enough in the afternoon, it's not going to impact our sleep at night, and we don't even have to be asleep during it. And I think that's great too, because I know when I first tried having a power nap, I couldn't go to sleep. I was sort of lying there thinking, I'm meant to be asleep now. I'm meant to be asleep now. I wasn't asleep at all. Fortunately, just resting with our eyes closed is restful for us and can help just to calm the mind down and make us feel better as well. Do you
take a lot of information in through our visual cortex, don't we? So actually closing our eyes actually calms down, quietens down the brain, and I think that it's true, because some people might say, well, look, I'm not going to be able to nap, and look, that's okay, but actually just to have quiet time and that rest where you can is really important.
I sometimes catch my husband sitting in the chair with his eyes closed, and I say, what are you doing? Because I can see he's actually sort of partially asleep. And he said, I'm just thinking. And I'm like, well, it's okay. Because, if you're in that sort of restful state, sometimes it just takes you away from that sort of heavy focus to allow the mind to relax and to go for a little mind wander or come up with an insight. And they say that some of the greatest creations or innovative ideas have come from our ability to fall asleep, and then as we're sort of waking up, we come up with that aha, eureka moment.
Indeed, which is really important in this time when we're faced with so many challenges that we haven't had to deal with it in the past. And one of the things I noticed is that uncertainty is continuing to be such a massive threat for people. And people are living in, people want to know when are things going to return to normal? And we don't know, but we know the brain is a prediction organ, and we're spending all of this time trying to predict what's going to happen. And there's some things we just can't predict at this moment. And I guess it's about, is that a good use of our limited attention and energy? Where are we better placed, do you think, to put our attention and energy?
I think this is incredibly important, what you've just raised, Linda, because I think it's the level of uncertainty that's one of the hardest things for us to deal with at the moment. And I think some people can accept that level of uncertainty more readily than others. And if you're in that place where, we don't know how long this is going for, but it's not phasing me too much, you've got that level of resilience to see you through. What concerns me is I hear a great rumble of uncertainty being expressed by those who are already struggling to cope with that. And my fear is that's then going to impact their mental well-being down the track. So I think we need to be mindful about what we can all be doing to manage our own state, to protect ourselves, essentially, because we've already got a society which is experiencing very high levels of anxiety and depression. Unfortunately, all this anxiety and uncertainty, I think, could add fuel to that fire. And so I think we really need to be looking out for ourselves and looking out for each other to make sure
we can see in the news just of late that that there is reports of much higher levels of stress of people working at home. There is reports of people buying more alcohol than ever before and drinking a lot more alcohol than they would normally.
That
resilience. And I think the point that you make is really, because I know one of the areas that you specialise in is that whole idea of human connection. And I think the question and the point you raise about how are we checking in with people? Because, some people are at home alone. They don't have another human in their household. And how are we checking in and making sure people are okay? And I was talking to someone the other day who was a CEO, and what that CEO said was, my people are saying I'm fine, but I actually don't believe it. And so rather than kind of asking people in the whole group, his action was to go and check in individually with every single person on that team. I thought that's really important. How are we checking in with those people that maybe don't naturally have those levels of resilience that you were just speaking about before? Are there any other suggestions that you would have around, how can we build resilience in this really uncertain time? How can we accept that there are some things that we can't predict right now?
Easy to say, really difficult to do, I think. Holding on to those little things that give us pleasure and joy can help maintain our positive state. And the longer we stay in a more positive frame of mind, the easier it is to see all the options available to us. I think, if we get stuck in this sort of negative rumination, when we get in that downward negative spiral, it gets harder and harder to see anything good about anything at all. And so that's why I think setting the intention every morning to check in with ourselves, how am I feeling? What's my pathway today? And to acknowledge whatever emotion it is that pops up, because we will be experiencing a whole array of different emotions. I have some mornings I wake up and think, oh, it's sunny, it looks quite nice out there, it's going to be a good day. Other mornings I'm waking up thinking, oh gosh, and I'm not feeling so great. And it's hard sometimes because you think, oh, I've got to put a positive smile on my face. Like you said, with the CEO talking to his employees, everything's fine. It's a very British response. I'm fine. Gird our loins, don't cry. We're all okay. No, we're not. Acknowledging your true feelings, but having somebody you can actually share that with, I think, is so important. And when you live alone or you're feeling isolated, it's really hard. And that's when we tend to shut in on ourselves. In our street, there are many people that I have never met over the decades that we've lived here. Because, when we've been busy and working, we've gone in and out of our houses, we've gone to work, come back, and we don't see our neighbours very much, apart from the times when we've deliberately made that effort. And I think it's very easy to overlook those people who are actually feeling a bit down and not feeling included in society. So I think putting it out there and making the opportunity to see each other is so important. We're holding regular street parties, virtual street parties, I said, where the neighbours send out a message and then everybody comes out of their house at a certain time with a drink in hand, whether it's alcohol or sparkling water, it doesn't matter. And we toast each other and we say hello, and then we all wave at each other. And what's been nice is over the period of time that these gatherings that aren't gatherings, if you know what I mean, because we're all physically distancing, some people are actually walking up the street to come a little bit closer. So we're now interacting with people that we've never met before, and we're hearing their stories. And I think when you hear stories from people that you don't know, you can hear, what they're going through themselves. It makes them feel better. So if it's somebody who's just lost their job, if it's somebody who's struggling to work from home because they've got 3 small children or whatever, it just feels good to be acknowledged as a human being. It binds us together. It makes us all feel a bit more supported. And I just think it's the simple things that make the biggest difference. And just saying hello to somebody. Have you noticed how people are being more proactive and saying hello? I don't know what it's like in Brisbane, but here in Perth, if you go out for a walk in the morning, people are actually taking more effort, definitely taking more effort to say hello and with a smile on their face, which normally they might just walk past and, you're just a human being, don't see you.
And initially, when it first happened, I saw people kind of not saying hello because everyone was in such threat mode. They were trying to protect themselves. But I think you're right. There's more of that happening. And I love your story of the virtual get together in your street. And I think we need to be doing that in the workplace too.
Absolutely.
If you know that someone's at home and they're alone, invite them to virtually have lunch with you. I mean, there's really simple things we can do like that. And other stories I've heard that kind of, there's beautiful things that come out of an event like this. So a single mum, two children, really climbing the walls, trying to keep her job. And so someone reached out and said, would you like me to read your children some stories and give you some time out? It's those little acts of kindness that are beautiful. And so think about what are the things that you can do to help other people as well as help yourself that, kind of support that human connection.
Yes.
I think the last thing I think is really important is for people to, and you and I spoke about this the other day, to set realistic expectations. you know, if you kind of have a to-do list for your day that is, 4.5 pages long, it's unlikely you're going to get through it. And so it's really important to do those things that are hard from a cognitive perspective. So prioritise the things that are absolutely the most important. Rather than doing the easy things first, do the hard things that you think, I have to get these things done today, and be realistic about what you can actually achieve. If you're homeschooling children, it's going to be really hard to get through your whole to-do list. So, yeah, I think that's something.
And I don't know about you, but I am a list ticker. So I love having a list of things to do because I get great satisfaction from being able to tick, done. And I do get frustrated when I don't get through as many things as I'd like to. But I know I always set myself too many things. So like you say, it's prioritizing what is absolutely essential and to feel good and be grateful for when we do actually achieve that. Because when you feel that sort of sense of self-satisfaction, it lifts you up and prepares you to be able to move on to the next item and be more effective with getting that done as well. So it sort of builds on itself. And not to give yourself a hard time. If you get to the end of the day and you really haven't done anything on your to-do list, well, has the world stopped? It's, I think we just need to, like you say, have a sort of realistic expectation of what we can do and to just do our best. We're all just trying to manage day by day how we get through this. And I think just setting more realistic expectations. If you normally have 5 must-do items, but you're only getting 2 done, we'll be grateful you got the 2 done. And maybe set yourself 3 tomorrow because you might get 2 of those done then. And it's okay. It's okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jenny. I think there's been some amazing tips and ideas that people can take away, and I'm sure both of us, we wish people well, and we don't want to just see people survive. We want to see them thrive in the best possible way they can in these challenging times. Please reach out to either of us if you have any questions or if you need any further support. Thank you.